Hello, everybody. My name is Joel Filderman, and welcome to the Dog Trainers Connection. I'm not a dog trainer, but these other people you see here are, and we get together and discuss a topic related to dog training or dogs, and we can come up with some thoughts, some ideas, and sometimes we come up with some answers. This week, for those who don't know, is the Dog Bite Prevention Week. That's according to the AVMA. I found something on their site that said there's 78 million dogs and that there are 4.5 million people who are bitten by dogs yearly. I'm assuming that's only in the States, but I can't swear to that. So my question to you as trainers is this. It's Dog Bite Prevention Week. Are dog bites preventable? And Joyce, why don't we start with you today?
Never happens. I think
Meaning it'll never happen that it'll be fully preventable?
I believe that they are preventable in many cases. Many cases. We just are so inappropriate with dogs in a lot of our expectations and also how we approach them, and then, you know, how we expect them to then respond to those approaches. And we don't do a very good job of teaching kids that are the number one receivers of the bites.
Yeah.
Don't do a very good job of teaching them how to approach dogs and how to be around dogs. And again, what are the expectations? If a dog growls, what do you do about that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, fault? Is it the dog's fault? You know, what's going on there? There seems to always want to be this blame game. So I think, you know, they are, to answer your question, and in many cases, I do believe they are preventable. I also think that a lot of our training methods tend to promote dogs biting more often, and we're moving away from those gradually. But as we, you know,
Are you talking about negative reinforcement and things along those lines, Joyce, or are you just talking about something else?
Negative reinforcement, positive punishment, those can, in many cases, there's a lot of people using invisible fences, and, you know, dogs don't really understand what that means when they receive the shock. And so they associate it with things they see at the time they receive the shock. And then people are amazed when their child gets bitten or neighbor runs by and gets bitten. You know, so there's a lot of things that we're doing that we need to change. And those, you know, as I said, we're working on that. And I think a lot of trainers are moving in that direction as we're learning more about these connections. You know, because we definitely want to get, you know, training is important, and that's been the goal for all trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get the dogs trained. So I'm not trying to bash any trainers. I'm just saying that as we're learning about how these methods then, the effects of them, we have to change. We have to do better so that we're not creating these problems by the methods that we choose. So yeah, it is, there are many that are preventable, and the ones that aren't, you know, there are such things as dogs that are aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, you know, there's a lot of times the wrong people handling them, and those bites are harder to prevent. But again, it's, you know, understanding what type of dog you have is important. So I'll leave it to everybody else, but that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Helen, what do you want to, I mean, dogs are dogs. Are they going to bite? Is that just the way that it is, or is there something that we can do about it?
Yes, dogs are dogs, but more importantly, humans are humans. And in theory, the vast majority of dog bites, I think, are preventable. But in practice, no. Humans are humans. And humans are inherently punitive, in my opinion. They'd rather punish or shut down. It's easier. It's easier to say no or threaten than it is to work with someone. And I'm not just talking about dogs, I'm talking about people.
Mm-hmm.
Our system, it's about punishment and incarceration. It's not about rehabilitation at all. The quote war on drugs, you know, was all about, you know, incarcerating people. So anyway, humans are just, they're going to do what they're going to do. They don't listen. I hate to bash humans, but, you know, as a dog lover, I've had way too many clients that refuse to use muzzles, refuse to follow instructions, you know. So I think dog bites are inevitable, predictable, and as long as humans stick with their stubborn ways, it's never going to stop.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's nothing to apologize. What do you think about it, Bonnie?
I just know when I'm going to just say this real quick and then let somebody else talk. When I walk around here and go for a walk, I carry my bottle of spray shield because dogs come flying out of people's houses and I don't want to get bitten. So is it preventable? Yeah, if they are better at managing whether their dogs are running out of their houses and being aggressive and lunging towards people. But like Helen just said, you know, they are humans. They do make mistakes and, oh God, I didn't know the door was unlatched, and etc. But I think it's, now that I'm mentioning that and just trying to be funny about, yeah, I walk around with my can of spray shield, people need to be responsible, know what their dog's behavior is like, either try to find somebody to help them and to make it better or at least manage it. People just say, well, oh, that's my dog. And they don't take the precaution that they need to do to manage their dogs. And I kind of think that, you know, dogs are going to bite and growl and get in your face, and it's what you do with it. And I've experienced that with the sweetest dogs and was like, oh my God, why did that happen? My dog's so nice and sweet and she loves me. And then it's like, no, you're not going to tell me to get off the bed. It's like, oh my God, you know. So that taught me a lesson. It's like, hey, dogs are freaking dogs, and they are probably going to bite under certain circumstances.
Is it
manageable? I don't think it's preventable, but it's like Joyce said, it sure can be better managed with people understanding what their dog's behavior is about and how they can help it and manage it and hopefully prevent it.
Jeff, is it a matter of educating people better?
I guess.
Okay.
You know, I mean, a lot of bites are due to human error. You know, sometimes it's inadvertent. It's not like people, you know, intend to be ignorant to what their dogs are communicating to them. It's not, there's no malicious intent for the person whose dog never bit anyone before and was put into a situation where the dog bit. You know, and there's no way the owner can prepare for that if it's never happened before, or if it's never been disclosed to them, if it was an adoption or some point. So
sure.
I think there are some cases, like everybody said, it's going to be hard to prevent everything. And I always go back to, we hold dogs to a higher standard than people.
Exactly.
You know, I was involved in a case recently, and basically there were two dogs involved in an incident. The where and how is irrelevant.
Sure.
One dog, you know, has lifelong consequences associated with what happened. The dog's not going to be killed or anything, but there were consequences legally. If two dudes got into a fist fight in a bar, absolutely nothing would have happened to them. Nothing. I mean, maybe civilly, like maybe one would civilly sue the other.
Sure.
But what are they going to slap on the wrist? They're not going to go to jail.
Right.
You know, two drunk guys got into a fight. I mean,
you break it up and you call
whatever, cops might come, they might break it up, and that's it. Now, obviously, if there's prior record involved, then maybe some of them will get into some serious trouble. If two dogs get into a scuffle, I mean, we're putting lifelong restrictions on not just the dog but the owner as well. And granted, I mean, sometimes there's validity to that. I'm not minimizing the fact that there could be some seriously dangerous dogs out there that need to be muzzled. They need to be in a 10 by 10 run with a cover and cement bottom and all that stuff.
Sure.
Some dogs, sometimes crap just happens and they get into a scuffle and we're held to a higher standard. Now, that's obviously a dog on dog incident. Dog on people bite, the definition of a bite. I mean, and again, I don't minimize the fact, when children get bit, but sometimes it is just a nip. And sometimes skin is broken, not because the dog made contact with the skin, but because the skin of a child is far more sensitive than the skin of an adult. The skin of an elderly person is far more sensitive than the skin of an adult. What is a scratch on an adult is a puncture on a child.
Sure.
And obviously toddlers are probably the biggies. I don't know the statistics, but just, superficially, toddlers get bit in the chin and the face. Why? Because they're usually at eye level with dogs, right?
Right.
So I think a lot of it has to do with management, how we approach dogs, the human aspect of it. I think to blame it on operant conditioning and to suggest that there's an actual statistical association with dog bites and training methods is a little premature at this point. And again, I mean, I'm not saying that people aren't too hard and they use tools incorrectly.
Right.
But I know people who cater to their dogs and pick them up and potentially validate their body language and overt behavior when they're in peak moments of behavior, whether
sure. I was someplace the other night and I saw a person with the dog in his lap. The dog got off the lap and was just literally growling at somebody because they were looking in their direction. And it was not a mild growl by any means. Person picked him up and petted him and, as you were saying.
Right. So, I mean, it's, and again, I mean, with all due respect to Joyce, I think it's a little premature, especially because there is no statistically substantial study done on it. It's purely agenda-based from trainers who don't believe in one type of training versus the other, which is fine. We'll always have that debate. But ultimately, they are animals, and animals will be animals, and we are people, and we are stupid. We expect them to not act like animals, and more so the negligent people who know exactly what kind of dog they have, and they put their dogs in positions to fail. They put people at risk. Those are the biggies. And more accurate statistics, I think, would help us better understand dogs biting people. And if you look at the CDC statistics, it used to just be pit bull mixes, but now they're throwing husky mixes and other breed mixes in there, where statistically, if a Labrador Retriever bites someone, it's classified as a Labrador Retriever bite. If a Labrador mixed with a Golden Retriever bites someone, it's classified as a mixed breed bite.
Right.
If a Labrador, et cetera, like if a Labrador mixed with anything bites someone, it's categorized by the CDC as a mixed breed dog bite. If an American Pit Bull Terrier bites someone, it's marked as a Pit Bull bite. If an American Pit Bull Terrier mixed with any of 230 breeds bites someone, it is also classified as a Pit Bull bite.
Right.
And now the same holds true for Huskies and other breeds where, again, it used to just be isolated to Pit Bulls, but now Rottweiler and Rottweiler mixes, or what people are visually looking at a dog and saying, oh, this is what it is, right? Because that's really all breed identification is a bunch of people in Atlanta looking at the picture of a dog and saying, yeah, it looks like this, that's where it goes. So I think, much like other areas of dog behavior or social issues surrounding dogs, breed identification certainly comes into play. So, and now with the growth of people rescuing dogs, I think that's probably another area that needs to be, I don't want to say scrutinized, but maybe we need to take a closer look at what can we do, especially as a rescuer, what can we do as rescuers to make sure we're putting dogs in positions to succeed?
Sure.
Not just turn dogs over for an adoption fee. That's all I have.
Okay. Steve, you've been doing this a while. You've seen a lot of dog bites. Are they preventable?
Been bit myself a few times.
Sure. Isn't it something that you say, something to the effect of that unless you've been chewed, you're not a trainer?
No, I don't know about that, but I mean,
not quite that, but almost.
It's. I guess if you're a carpenter, you're going to bang your hammer into your thumb a couple times.
Exactly.
So, I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking about Coppinger when it comes to this. Because he had that whole algorithm thing, right? Eye stalk, chase, grab, grab, bite turns into kill, bite, and, that whole thing. And then
I have no idea what you're talking about, Steve.
The Coppingers wrote a book some years back. Dr. Coppinger used to teach at Hampshire College in Massachusetts. He's a really smart guy. Sue Sternberg used to say, nobody knows dogs on this planet like Ray Coppinger.
Okay.
The people from Hampshire College that I've ever met that knew Coppinger called him Crazy Ray.
Okay.
I don't care what they called him. The guy was really he's a big fat textbook. It was not so easy to read because there's a lot of physiology and all that, but it was fascinating to me. Anyway, when he started to show some of the different breeds' characteristics, you don't want a pointer to follow through the whole algorithm and grab the bird, right? That they're supposed to stop.
Understood.
So the genetics part of some of this stuff counts, I think, in terms of how the dog might behave. And that's got to be a generalization because there are pointers that'll bite you, right? They don't all stop. So there's flexibility in that, but I think it's important to think about that. Then there's the individual dogs that, if you're a parent and you've got young kids and you're seeking a dog, well, I think you're hoping to get the dog that's kind of bomb-proof so that if you fall over it, it gets up and moves. It crawls and moves away versus the dog that spins around and grabs the kid for falling on the dog.
Right.
I'm not saying the dog that grabs the kid is wrong, because if the dog is sharp and doesn't have a lot of nerve threshold, it's going to just be reactive. It's not thinking about whacking the kid. It's just a moment in time. Because that dog couldn't handle that, and there are other dogs that might. The bomb-proof dog is never really bomb-proof.
Right.
There's always something where you're going to pressure them into where they feel like that's the last option. Right. So if you're so blind as to not know that, you can't see that coming, then it's your fault. It's your fault. If you can't recognize it, you probably shouldn't be around a dog. But there are those dogs that are very tolerant and generous with their space and their touch sensitivity and all that stuff. And those dogs might be safer around children. Do you know you're getting that if you get a puppy? How would you know that?
Sure.
Yeah.
How could you know? You can't call up somebody and say, I want a bomb-proof puppy. It doesn't go that way. They don't advertise those. We got puppies, bomb-proof.
Bomb-proof. Okay. Well, there you go.
They're not going to bite. They're not going to bite. It's or so not likely to bite. And then there are the other guys. They're sharper, maybe because of their individual character, maybe because of their breed type. I think I could be wrong, Jeff, but I think the CDC, from 79 to 89, reported that the majority of deaths by dog bites were huskies, which is fascinating. I thought, back in the day when I read that,
wow.
Oh boy, deaths. I'm not talking bites. I'm talking you're dead. Husky killed you. So, and then I have back in the old days when I used to hang with folks like Carol Benjamin, we used to have these profiles, and what they asked us to do is write what we won't do. What do you do? What won't you do? Carol Benjamin's profile said, will not train Malamutes, Siberian Huskies, or Chows.
Wow.
I thought that's what I said. It's wow, but she was honest, right? She's honest. Don't call me if you got one of these guys, because I don't really feel like getting bit. So now, if chows, I've been around some chows, and most of them, if you leave them alone, really leave them alone, they'll leave them alone too.
Right.
But if you get that, wow, what a cute dog, and you want to touch it, call the ambulance. But when you see somebody's hand stretching down, get on the phone, 911, right away.
Not even when they touch it, just the minute you see the hand move.
It's coming, right? Mm-hmm. So, there's that stuff. There's all, it is all that. And then if you know dogs, then it's almost easy to not get bit, right? If you know dogs. But I've seen what I thought were crazy things when I was in the Hudson Club. We got this German guy come from Europe to do a seminar, and we had a guy in the club who had this mammoth Rottweiler that he would keep in the truck while everybody else was working their dogs, and this truck would rock up and down. We were scared to death of this dog, all of us. There's a bunch of dog trainers in a Hudson Club, but we were like, he's getting the dog. And the Germans start screaming at us, "What's wrong with you people? You look like scared rabbits now. Come back." In the meantime, this righty's out there, and he's like, woo, jumping up and down. Right? And the German sticks his hand out like this, and he goes, "Hi, hi." And he walks up to this while the dog is going crazy.
Yeah.
He walks right up there, turns around, so he's now standing next to the handler, and now the dog's in front of both of them, barking at all the rest of us. Right? He said, "He doesn't want to bite you." I'm like, really? That's what it looks like, right? "Oh, no, look, I'm here, Does anybody else want to come up?" And we're like, no. We want to come back tomorrow for some more stuff.
We'd like to be alive.
Right. He made us tool around while this guy healed his dog around us, that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, we were sweating. But the thing that was most amazing was how he approached this dog while it was actively showing aggression. He's like, "Hi, hi," with this high voice. He also had thoughts, this guy, about our appearance.
Sure.
So the bite helpers that he wanted to work with had deep set eyes. He said they make better bite helpers. I thought that was interesting. I'm like, why is that?
Because
the dog doesn't see so well in here, right?
Yeah.
They have pronounced foreheads, deep set eyes. They're already on the edge of being a little worried about who this person is.
Because they can't read them.
They can't read them. And he goes, "These are the people who make the good bite helpers." This guy put his effort into whoever we had who looked that way. He's looking around. Let me see, who do I want to train here? It's like, I'll take that guy. Why? He's got deep set eyes. He's going to make the dogs a little nervous. We weren't nervous. He's going into bite work. We weren't a little nervous. So, it's interesting stuff. It's like, what creates the bite in the first place?
Right.
Are you too forward? Do you not know, not to face them or to stand sideways or to be still and let them do the sniff test? There's all the stuff we naturally just do because this is what we do. But people just go. It's like Joyce says, "Why are you walking up to me when I'm walking my dog? It's not your dog. It's my dog. Step off." Me and my dog are hanging out. Step off. I mean, it's the right thing. It's like, what are you doing here? Why do you want to touch my dog? I love dogs. My dog doesn't love you. Get lost. Right? But, it's right. We're not going to, what can we do with the people? We get paid. The dogs don't pay. It's the owner that pays. And so, and they have that's really willing to bite. And you're looking at a person you don't really believe is going to be able to manage that dog. What do? They're not going to put the muzzle on. Helen says, she's right. They don't want it. They don't want the muzzle. They're not going to lock the dog up like Bonnie says. I have a yard. I think my dog should have freedom. But there are people walking by. You care about them? If the dog's in my yard, until it's not, and then it jumps somebody running by, a jogger or whatever it is. So can you prevent dog bites? If you teach people, if people learn, if people are interested enough, or maybe people like us are supposed to go into public schools and teach kids.
Steve, I was just thinking that. Why isn't that part of every kid's learning in grade school, where they learn the breeds, how to approach dogs?
That would be a good functional course.
Mandatory for all kids in schools, public schools, private schools, charter schools.
That'd be great. I think
Helen, you're shaking your head no. Why?
Because it's not deemed important.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be part of the system, ever.
It's not, but we can still affect change, and the kids love it. And I mean, I've done it for years. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, child summer camps, all with my pit bulls. Since moving down here, me and Deuce, we've done county fairs. Before the fair opens, it's opened for the school children.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done, I don't know, like 800 kindergarten kids every year. And we do a little presentation on how to properly approach a strange dog. Now, obviously, that's just a little spit in the ocean, you know, and, you know, people like us would be interested in doing that, you know, but I think it's possible to reach out to children. It's just, I mean, I think Helen's right. I think willingness on the part of whatever institution we reach out to is a huge component.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know, Bonnie was saying it should be mandatory in schools, and I might agree with that thought, but it's not going to ever happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Willingness. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
But the positive thing out of all of this is that we know, and a whole lot of other people know, who are trainers or other people who work with dogs, and we're passing it on as best we can.
But I think it's important because Joel started this thing with saying, how many dogs are there?
There's 78 million dogs.
And how many bites?
4.5 million.
Okay, that's a small number then, right? The dog bites are actually almost insignificant to the number of dogs.
It's almost 5%, yeah. It's more than 5%.
And how many serious bites? Very, very small.
Right.
Deaths statistically insignificant, which sounds horrible to say because people died. But it's just the epidemic that certain organizations solicit out there, that, especially because I'm a pit bull guy, so obviously this is near and dear to my heart, that they demonize these breeds when, you know, and unfortunately, you know, 20, 23 people or whatever it is die every year from dog bites, which is horrible. Don't get me wrong. But it's hardly an epidemic compared to the dog bite industry, which I think we've talked about it in the past forums, that it's an industry.
Sure.
It's $1 billion industry. Lawyers get paid. People settle out of court. I mean, there's so much money made from dog bites. Okay. People get bit on the thumb. They're raking in 125 grand. I mean, there's something seriously wrong with that. Granted, I'm very sorry for whoever gets a bit in the finger or whatever, you know, but there should be some scrutiny, you know, in the legal system as well, because it's such a huge moneymaker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, postal workers are, you know, they're getting bit and raking in 60, 80 grand a bite. I mean, shit, I could just walk around the neighborhood, get bit, make a living. I mean, you know why? Because we'll go to court and they'll settle. It'll never see a courtroom.
Uh-huh.
Right. But you still get paid as an expert witness if you get hired on.
Yes, even if it gets settled, you still get paid.
Yep.
Yep. One bite a year, I'll make more money than I do training.
Seriously, I know.
But I think it's unfair. I mean, I'm sure this is arguable, but just today I saw some behaviorist on I don't know, maybe a Twitter thing, talking about pointing to the concept that how you train the dog may cause aggression, and right, like that the, you know, basically saying it's dangerous to train your dog in certain ways because, and I had to hold I was going to like get some rubber bands and just tie my fingers together so that because I'm ready to, like, you know, blast off here on this thing. You know, it's just, what about not creating a bigger problem when it comes to, look, anybody can do anything. You know, if you're a positive reinforcement trainer and you got a dog that needs a knock in the head and you don't do it, then you could be responsible for that dog becoming aggressive because you just didn't discipline the dog when he needed it, right? Because positive doesn't mean permissive, and there's all that stuff, right? And, you know, I got a clicker. I got a lot of clickers, but, you know, sometimes a dog needs a little tune-up, right? That doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make the dog a bad dog. It's just, come on, you know, be clear about this. I don't think if you gave them a knock, you know, you're going to create aggression necessarily. And I think that if you're too harsh a dog trainer and you scare the bejesus out of a dog, the dog has every right to try to defend itself when he sees you coming at him in that way. So it's not necessarily positive or negative. It's how you go about it in the first place. You know, all that stuff. It's about having some kind of sensitivity in the field. It's not this is all good and this is all wrong. It's not that way, I don't think. And it bothers me when they're doing that thing, because I feel like it's just one more, let's just push the dog trainers out of business altogether because they don't know what they're doing. And that drives me a little crazy. You know, I'm annoyed with that. I found a letter last week that Art Haggerty sent to me in like 1989 about trainers versus behaviorists.
Wow.
What a fascinating, I scanned it and sent it to Babette. She was like, wow, you know, she never saw it. It was very interesting. And from 1989, I got to say, it was an eloquently written letter about the differences. And, you know, he really had this thing. I was like, look, you know, they will do what they can to erase us from the profession if they can. They're going to use their credentials to try and, like, we know better, we're smarter, you don't know anything. And, you know, in some cases, it very much is that. I mean, I love my local PhD guy, my nearest one, and but he's got a real strong feeling about dog trainers being, you know, in a little corner over here, you know, because you guys aren't trained.
Right.
Because we didn't get that academic education necessarily. Some do, some don't. But, you know, he was like, you know, you're over here, we got this. My colleagues, he didn't consider me a colleague because I don't have that paper. And so I'm not a colleague, I belong over there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit insulting when, you know, you do something for a lot of years. It just is.
Yeah. I agree. But I don't know that they can erase us, because in my experience, and I could be wrong, this is purely my experience, anecdotal, every behaviorist, and particularly vet behaviorists, they are not hands-on. They will see the dog in their office. Some of them don't even see the dog. Some of them don't even see the dog, but they'll see their dog in the office for an hour. They'll ask questions. They talk to the human. They write up a report, and they're done. They're done. This is what you got to do. So they don't show the person how to go about. You know, it's very easy to talk about working on counter conditioning, and you can even explain it and spell it out in a piece of paper. But, you know, people need to be walked through the process. People need to practice. Timing is crucial when you're working on counter conditioning. And a piece of paper doesn't necessarily give somebody timing. You know, it's practice. So they may try to erase us, but they can't, because they're not hands-on. And people still need hands-on. If they didn't, then we wouldn't have a business anyway, because there's a gazillion dog training books out there. There's a gazillion of them. So why do I still get hired? Because you can't find it all in a textbook.
Interesting. And I think it was a interesting twist to the conversation at the end there. But I will say that I think that it fit in with the whole conversation, because to me what it sounded like is that, yeah, there's only 4.5 million dog bites, but we all would like to see that number go down, and we certainly would like to educate people better. And I hope that this forum helped do that a little bit today. So I really want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all for watching. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.
Bye.